Welcome to the Cloud Council. We've been having a fantastic conversation with Aileen Hayes, the Director of Technology Transformation for EMEA at Experian. Now, one of the things you've said is your almost hidden superpower is people don't always see you as a technologist. And I just wondered how this has helped you progress in your career, and any tips for others to make similar steps forward. Is it personality driven? Is it just, not subscribing to the usual cliches or stereotypes?
I'm not really sure. I think it's because I'm actually engaged with understanding how the organisation works. So whatever organisation I'm in, whether it's a university, whether it's local government, a bank, big data company, I'm interested in what does it do? What is it about? How do these different things work? I've recently had the opportunity to work very closely with my colleagues in sales and in costing and pricing. And they're things that would have been invisible to me. And I'm really genuinely interested in what they do and how they go about it. So I think the reason why people forget I'm a technologist is because I'm quite good at bridging across and using language, which is about the business. I talk about it in business outcomes terms. I don't talk about it in technology terms. Now, there is actually a negative to that. So my technologist colleagues sometimes don't see me as a technologist either. So I was told recently that I don't know much about technology, which makes me laugh a lot. I had a hugely technical role at Lloyd's, and I've been a technologist for most of my career, but that person doesn't believe that I have a technical background when I actually do. But in a way, I'm quite happy with that because it makes it much easier for me to talk to the people that I'm delivering things on behalf of, so other areas of my organisation, if they feel that I've got empathy for what they do and I can talk their language. They don't feel that they need a translator sat between me and them. So I think it's a huge benefit. I think the biggest learning, I would say, is take the time and effort to go and find out about other people's areas, show interest in what they do. I used to meet regularly with my head of procurement in an organisation I used to work in, and he told me a lot about his finance career, and I learned a huge amount from him. And we have a really good relationship. So take the time to go find out what your colleagues do, what their pain points are, the things that they're hoping to achieve from their business, and listen to the language that they use and try and incorporate it in what you do. It will make it much easier engaging with them.
Now, there are challenges within organisations, and sadly, we still find ourselves in a position where diversity isn't as much as it should be. And perhaps, and using that kind of cross-department conversation as a starting point, how do you think we build not only increase relationships between departments, but to bring in a more diverse viewpoint into any organisation, whether it's from a technological point of view or not?
I'm a big believer that we need a collection of talents. And by talents, I don't just mean people who've got skills. I mean people who have got different perspectives. And by bringing all those different perspectives, for example, if you're trying to solve a particular business problem, bringing lots of people together who have differing perspectives gives you a broader set of views that you can draw on. If you only bring in people who have exactly the same way of thinking about a problem, you're going to narrow your ability to find possible solutions. Now, if you take that out wider, what you're talking about is people with different life experiences. So, for example, I was talking to somebody in one of our markets about their credit bureau and about the fact that in that particular country, there's a high level of indebtedness. And one of the things we were talking about was from a very long time ago in my career, I actually worked as a debt counsellor briefly. And being aware of what people go through when they're in debt and how that makes them feel, I think is hugely important, because then when you bring that forward and you're talking about a problem, you can incorporate that thinking into how you then go about solving things. And it's just a really small example, and obviously that's not a major area of mine, but we need to bring people together who've got different experience, who have experienced the world differently. So, I don't want to be offensive, but if the only people we ever get in a room are middle class, nice white men in a nice shirt and tie, then I'm sure they've got lots of very good ideas, but it will be limited to their perception of what the problem is and how you solve it. If you start including more people who are Black, if you start including people with disabilities, if you start including more women, if you include people from other kinds of different backgrounds, people who think differently, then I think you get a much richer sense of what the possible scope could be for solutions. You can't always do that, but if it's a monoculture, literally, where it's just the same group of people who are ever involved in anything, you're going to see a lot of just the same things always coming out of it. So yes, diversity is hugely important. As well as being a matter of fairness, it's actually good for business too.
I mean, it strikes me massively as a good for business idea, on the grounds that the monoculture can't create or deliver a solution or a system that is actually going to serve
someone radically different,
the Far East, South America, North,
exactly.
in as an efficient way. So if you don't have that representation internally, you are never going to fulfill your potential externally.
Exactly, I completely agree. There's just small things such as when we moved to remote working a year ago fully. So obviously, as an organisation, we already did support people being able to work remote, but we weren't really anticipating the entire business to go and work remote. And there was a lot of discussions around how we could make sure that people in different offices had the equipment they needed to be able to do that. And there was a lot of assumptions being made about people having space that they could work from like that they could repurpose as space for an office or to do lots of calls, that they had an internet connection, that they had a PC potentially at home, or were able to bring a work PC or a laptop and be able to use that. And what we found very quickly was that some of the places where you'd anticipate that to be true, it wasn't necessarily true. We don't know about everyone's personal home circumstances. And then some of the countries, certainly in EMEA, that is not the case. That we have people who live in places where power is cut for 2 hours a day on a regular basis on rolling brownouts. So South Africa has that regularly. Not everybody lives in a place where they've got a generator that picks up if that happens. So, you have to be able to work around that as well. If you sit in your little monoculture, you don't recognize any of that.
So I'd just like to kind of start wrapping up really about returning to maybe some of your ambitions, and culture's a great one. You speak about the benefit of working for a company with so many international offices. You've always wanted to embrace different cultures professionally. And I guess maybe you can help us understand, your motivation for wanting to go and work in another country, but also help maybe some of our viewers understand maybe if it's something for them. I mean, you talk about working in EMEA. I think you mentioned Italy being attractive. I mean, is that something you'd recommend for everybody?
I think obviously it depends on your personal circumstances. That's obviously going to be a big factor for everyone. My personal view is that by being able to work with such a diverse range of nations, it broadens my outlook as a person. It stops me risking being quite a monoculture in my own right. So I hadn't worked particularly internationally. I'd done little bits and pieces internationally, but I'd never worked in this way before. And I've found it absolutely a joy. I've loved it. I've learned so much that surprised me, and so much where it surprised me because it's not as different as I anticipated it being. I love the fact that I get to work with people from a huge number of different kinds of backgrounds. So, primarily at the moment, I've got people that I'm working with from Eastern Europe, from Northern Europe, Southern Europe, South Africa, and then I'm working with colleagues from North America, from Central America, South America, Malaysia, India, China, and just having the opportunity to meet people as people and work with them to get things done has been wonderful. I've really, really enjoyed it, and I would hugely recommend it to anyone. I think it's wonderful. You have to come at it in the right way. So, I am just me. I'm one of many people. You have to be broad-minded and open-minded and empathetic to the people you're talking about. They are not living your life. But yeah, it's wonderful. And in terms of actually the opportunity to work abroad, I'm actually part of a cohort at the moment. Experian has a cohort for IT Future Women Leaders. That's probably the wrong way to put it because you're already a woman, but it's about making sure that they're preparing people. Well, it's preparing people for promotion effectively. And there was a lady there who was a CEO from a large utilities organization in North America. And one of the things she was talking about was letting people know when you're ready for a particular experience, because how will they know otherwise? And she was talking specifically about saying, I would like to work in another country. And I'd not really thought about it like that. I'd not actually thought about maybe actually actively saying to someone, I would like the experience to be able to go and work in EMEA. Literally, I would like to relocate to EMEA. So one of the things it's made me think about doing is the next time I have a conversation with my senior management is having a conversation with them about, do you know what, if you are looking for someone to relocate, I'm up for it. And if it's the right place, I would like to do that. Because if they don't know, they may make assumptions that I'm not willing or interested in doing that. So I think that's really good piece of advice.
I think many people watching this, and I think this isn't just the Cloud Council or a technology premise, but people often think from a personal basis, I would like to, hot climate, cold climate, up a mountain, in a different culture. Do you, from a technological point of view, see that there's a huge career value in spending some time in another environment as well?
Yeah, definitely. So there's two different ways. So first of all, increasingly, most organizations are relying on global talent. So that can be directly you're hiring people from all over the world, or it can be that you are partnering with organizations that work in different parts of the world. There are few organizations of any kind of real size, particularly in the corporate environment, that are not working across boundaries, even though that they might be a business, for example, wholly in the UK, they will have partnerships with people overseas, and you will be working with people overseas. So having the opportunity to understand that and understand the cultural differences and similarities, and having that kind of respect for other people's cultural differences is hugely important to getting the job done. And I also think that there are some really interesting opportunities in certain areas. So I'm going to pick a particular example, but I'm just picking this one because it's one that I was talking to somebody about recently. So there's a really vibrant kind of digital and web-based and apps-based culture in Lisbon and in Portugal generally. And it's really pulling people in who probably otherwise wouldn't have thought to go necessarily work in Portugal. But there's this little kind of really interesting innovation hub building. It's not like a Silicon Roundabout or anything like that. That makes it sound much grander than it is. But there's lots and lots of talent arriving in Portugal and finding the capability to connect with other like-minded people. And it's growing innovation as a result of that. There'll be pockets of that all over the world. So as well as the fact that you will be working with people in different parts of the world, there's the fact that actually the thing you're looking for, the next innovation you might be looking for, may not be in your country. And if you're not keeping an eye out for that, you're not going to see it and you're going to miss it.
Aileen, we really could talk for hours longer. I just want to say, if you guys have been watching this and didn't hear about the fact that Aileen Hayes is the software whisperer, I strongly recommend you go to another episode. But I think you'll find, if you've been enjoying Aileen's company as we have, she's both passionate, inspiring, and incredibly helpful for anybody seeking to move forward in technology and IT. So Aileen, once again, on behalf of Cloud Council, thank you for sharing your time with us. And if you're watching and would like to know more about the Cloud Council, please click in the appropriate place. But it just remains for me to say thanks again to Aileen, and we wish you all the best. Thank you for watching.